All right. Good evening, everyone. Magandang gabi. My name is John Lim Hap. I am the community lead for the Philippine.NET Users Group, and I'm also a developer for a company called PHINUG. And this is the October 2021 episode of the PHINUG Online Dev Sessions. And funny for me just to mention this, I rewatched last month's episode, and I realized that I mistakenly said that that was the October 2021 episode, and so this is our second October 2021 episode, the real one this time. All right, but yeah, I'm so excited that everyone is here. Thank you very much. And yeah, please invite your friends if they're not doing anything. Please invite them to join us in our chat. All right, before I go on with our event tonight, which is about an IDE that is not just the usual Visual Studio that everybody's familiar with. Let's go and thank just the people and the organizations that are helping us out with the stream. First off would be my employer, PageUp. Yeah, so PageUp is actually currently hiring in Manila. So if you're interested in joining me, some of the openings are for my team. Yeah, please visit popcareers.pageuppeople.com. There will be positions there available for everyone in either based in Manila or well, if you're based in Australia, there are some openings there as well. All right. And then aside from that, of course, our stream sponsors. We'd like to thank the .NET Foundation. The .NET Foundation is a group that serves the different .NET user groups and communities all around the world. So feel free to visit their their page at .netfoundation.org. Also have to plug. I have did don't have a slide for that here, but a .NET Conf is up. That's going to happen in November 9 to 11, and so yeah, save those dates. Please search for .NET Conf. I think it's .NETconf.org if I'm not mistaken. If you are not sure, the .NET Conf events will be added to the .NET Virtual User Group. Some of you may have registered via the PHINUG meetup. Some of you may have registered through the .NET Virtual User Group meetup. So the different .NET Conf events will also be streamed in this same YouTube channel. So click subscribe, and you will also be able to join different .NET Conf, local .NET Conf events around the world. So they will be all. We're still in the process of putting up everybody who had been registering their local .NET Conf events. So yeah, in the next few weeks, you'll see more of those in the .NET Virtual User Group meetup. So join them, meetup.com/.NET-virtual-user-group. Please join us in this big event. We're going to talk about .NET 6 and yeah, a bunch of other technologies that are coming out very soon. All right, and yeah, finally, just to remind everyone, please join us in our different channels, the Facebook .com group for the Philippine.NET Users Group. Our Twitter, follow us on Twitter. Some of you might have already joined us in our meetup.com page. And yeah, if you want this to be available in the stream, there's this big talk about everybody just wanting to cancel Facebook after that downtime, right? All right. If we want alternative venues for the stream other than just YouTube and Facebook right now, please join our LinkedIn profile as well. Follow us on LinkedIn. We could also stream these events on our LinkedIn page. Right. So, to proceed with our event, so um, almost all of us, I would even say, would probably be using Visual Studio of some sort, either the community edition, the professional editions, or the enterprise editions, or Visual Studio Code, which is the more lightweight alternative to that, and is available in OSs other than Windows. And I am aware there's also Visual Studio for Mac, but yeah, in Page Up, one of the choices that I was presented when I joined there was, do I want to use Visual Studio, or do I want to use another IDE, which we'll be talking about tonight? And that IDE is JetBrains Rider. JetBrains is also the maker of ReSharper, which everybody loves. Right. So our speaker for tonight will is, he's a passionate C# developer who loves talking about build automation, productivity, testing, and tooling in general. Yeah, he has some open source projects to prove that love. He's the author of a build system called Nuke, and he also likes to talk about productivity and he works as a developer advocate at JetBrains. And yeah, he's here tonight with us to talk about another IDE, the JetBrains Rider. So please join me in welcoming Matthias Koch. All right. Hey,
Hi, John.
hi.
That,
Yeah.
that was
So
that was the
mhm.
coolest introduction I've ever heard.
Thank you very much. All right.
Very
So
passionate introduction.
yes. Thanks. All right. So I'll give over the floor to you. I guess can you share your screen
I'm
now?
about to. Yeah.
All right.
Incoming. Should be there.
All right. There you go. All right. Over to you then.
Okay. Thanks, John, once more. And welcome everyone who's watching. Like John said, I'm working at JetBrains. I will be talking about JetBrains Rider today, which is our cross-platform IDE. So kind of to, if you know ReSharper, well, I will say a couple of things about it. So meet the most productive .NET IDE. I like John said, I also maintain an open source project. I'm making heavy use of this, not only because I work at JetBrains, but also because it really helps me, let's say, working with it and bringing it forward. And this is not Rider in particular, but this was just to give you some kind of introduction here. This was one of our first attempts. It never went public, but it was our first attempt coming up with something like a ReSharper IDE. You also see this here. This was way back in the day when there was there was not only WPF. But yeah, people ask us about we need a standalone IDE which is really only made by JetBrains, right? And I don't that was actually before my time when this whole thing here was developed, and it was just a prototype. But and it was probably also not continued for a very long time. But as you probably know, with .NET Core moving cross-platform, there was a real need to have something which works cross-platform as an IDE, as a really major IDE. So we were standing there and had ReSharper basically working inside Visual Studio. Now the question was, we need some kind of a front end. Yeah? And on Windows, we have Visual Studio as a front end, basically. And the question was about the architecture. And what could we use as an architecture? And with the front end, it was the IntelliJ platform, which we also use for various other IDEs that we produce, like WebStorm, IntelliJ IDEA is probably the most known one for Java and Kotlin, but also PHP Storm, PyCharm, etc. So there's quite a lot. And this front end is basically running on the JVM, right? The ReSharper host, meanwhile, still runs on .NET Framework or .NET Core. At least that's my last knowledge. .NET Framework is, I think, still used on Windows. On Unix and Linux, for some time, we also used Mono, but now we could migrate that and make use of all the cool performance improvements in .NET Core. So we more or less have two processes, one on the JVM, one on .NET, and those two need to communicate with each other. You can think of it probably as some kind of view model which is shared between those. And how can this view model be shared? It's a lightweight protocol that we implemented ourselves in Kotlin, which has all the fancy attributes, let's say, like being lightweight, of course, but also reactive. So when something happens in the front end, the backend will be notified, and vice versa. And this is actually highly interprocedural, because we're not only taking this approach for IntelliJ in the front end and ReSharper in the back end, but this also works the same way with, for instance, we have Unity integration with the Unity editor for, if you, most likely it's used for writing games. But there the same approach is used, because we have one component running in the Unity editor, and then these two communicate with each other. Same goes also for Roslyn. So we are asked quite often about, why don't you use Roslyn for your whole implementation? Yeah. So there are quite a couple of reasons, mostly that our model is already 10 years old and quite sophisticated, I would say. Not to say Roslyn is not sophisticated, but you know, there would also be quite a cost of moving, and also we know that some features wouldn't work anymore. But there's actually a dedicated blog post if you're interested in that. But Roslyn, for instance, we have as a separate process also to show you the inspections that come with Roslyn analyzers, and that follows also this approach. Now, the question that we also get quite often is how much, or sometimes people assume we just re-implemented everything. But actually, there's quite a high number of shared code between Rider and ReSharper, not vice versa, but ReSharper code that is used in Rider. Don't pin me on the number exactly, but I can tell you all the language support is fully used from ReSharper, which you see in Rider for .NET. There's something that we don't actually use or even can't use is UI specific stuff, like for instance option pages. That has been the case for some time. Meanwhile, we also have a model where you can just define your option pages, or where we define option pages just as code. So then they also automatically work in Rider, but at first that was not the case. And also what we're not using from ReSharper is the TypeScript, JavaScript support, because for that, and that's really interesting, we're using the web support that was implemented in WebStorm, which is also a separate IDE for web development. And yeah, we kind of had the choice, basically. Do we want to take the ReSharper code for that, or the WebStorm code? And WebStorm is just was just better at that time, I guess. Next slide. Come on. But then there's also the aspect of using IntelliJ as the front end has as the huge benefit that we get to integrate a lot of other features which are language agnostic from the front end. And these are features that we get like automatically, like with every release of IntelliJ IDEA, we get a bunch of new features which are not specific to .NET, and which probably all the other, or most certainly all the other IDEs that we have also get. But Rider gets it too. So that includes, well, some of my favorites are VCS integration, which works really well in Rider. Command line is actually not just a simple command line. There are really cool features related to that, but I think I won't have time to dig into that. Search everywhere, where you can even change settings and much more from a single pop-up. Scratch files is a really cool feature, which is basically like some notes beside, but with proper formatting in the language that you're writing them. Comparer for files to do Explorer, and of course the two. I don't know. I probably haven't updated that number in a long time, but even before Rider existed, there was a huge ecosystem of plugins that you can use for various aspects, from being completely fun plugins that don't add any meaningful thing to your IDE, but also to a lot of plugins that just increase the productivity where we haven't yet been active, let's say, or it's something additional. Like, for instance, I'm a big fan of Git Toolbox, which is a separate plugin which adds a couple of nice things to the IDE. Okay, with that said, I'll be giving a little demo. Let me see. I have three solutions open, but I will start with this. And also, since I don't know, there might still be some people. It's most often it's the case that some people haven't heard anything about ReSharper. So I will also give a little introduction with what the parts from coming from ReSharper are about. So on ReSharper and Rider, it's mostly all about the Alt-Enter hotkey to fix something. So let's assume you copy something, and this is kind of to mimic that. You copy something from a different place, from Stack Overflow, or your colleagues sent you something, and you see we don't have the namespace. We're not using the namespace yet. We're not importing it yet. So we can hit Alt-Enter and say import missing namespace and be done. And that can also be with a larger chunk of code. Okay, many people will probably know this already. But there's also, and you see currently I only have system collections generic, what is a huge time saver often, because for extension methods, you often I mean, about link, it's pretty obvious, but this also works with other extension methods. You often might not remember where they're coming from, and they might be in some other namespace that is not so obvious. So extension methods always complete automatically. So if we choose that, then you can see system link was added, and I can just continue writing my my condition for that all call. Something different, but what is also interesting, tests. So this again is something like when you copy something from somewhere and you're just digging into something, and but it doesn't resolve, right? You see it's red code. In this case, I don't have create or import the missing namespace, but what I have is this little action here. And by the way, every time I open this pop-up, it's Alt-Enter. But I have this little item here, which says find this type on NuGet.org. And what this action does is in the background, it talks to a web service that is provided by us, which previously scanned all the NuGet packages and basically knows which package provides which type. So we have searched for the test attribute, and then all I have to do is go to any unit. Well, sometimes you have to think about what is the right package, of course. But then we just execute that. We can go back here, and I also see this little underlining, and I can import that namespace. And by the way, also since I'm working in the NuGet tool window currently, you can also hit Alt-Enter on any of these items here, and then see stuff like everything that's related to a NuGet package. Something like you can actually also remove it again, but you can also, this is something that I use quite often, review it in Finder, view it in the Assembly Explorer. That's also very cool. That is basically my replacement for the NuGet Package Explorer, which works on Windows. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but I will leave it here because I found it really cool. It's NuGet.info, which is which uses the Uno platform and Blazor, as far as I know, to provide you this whole interface as a web application. So pretty cool. Has nothing to do with Rider, but I thought I would just leave it here. Okay, and many more, of course. Okay, but let's go back. Solution Explorer again. One thing that ReSharper and Rider are very strong about is simplification. And this is not necessarily this is just an example, right? But what I want to make clear here is when we write code, then it's often the case that we write it just from our mind down to the, well, not paper, but editor. And we might end up with something that is not necessarily the easiest to understand. We're just following our thoughts, basically. And with this in particular, I guess, if you look at it, it's not immediately clear what it does. It takes a bit of parsing, and I have some negation here and there, etc. And in Rider, it's all about simplification. So we can replace that and eliminate the negations here, and then I can follow up here and replace that with a method group. And I guess this one is much easier to understand right away without much parsing, and this is just how it works with every other code. Okay. Next is navigation. And for navigation, I will introduce a second shortcut. And the second shortcut is either double shift, so I'm just hitting shift 2 times, or if you're used to the way ReSharper works, then you can also use Control T. It's basically the same, just from muscle memory, let's say. And this opens up a dialog for navigation. So from here we can navigate to all kinds of things, including classes, files, symbols, actions, and Git. Git is also a recent addition here. But I can navigate, for instance, to something like vehicle base, and you see it also uses this initial letter search. And I could follow and say dot move, for instance, to move to or to navigate to the move method. And you can see I also have these 2 overloads. But there's also, and it doesn't, let me see, this is also very forgiving when you have typos in it. So how many times you're looking for something and you type it and you make a mistake, but you still want to go there, right? Now I have a better hit theoretically, which is this particular method, but you see I still have console in my result set, which is cool because I don't want to go back and fix my typo. I just want to navigate there. And there's plenty of others, of course. We can also, I think, let me try it. Sometimes I forget, but let me try again. Vehicle base, and I think you can also put the line number here exactly. It's not something that I often use, but anyway. Okay, but let's go back. One thing that's very important in this dialog is you can also go to the well, you don't really have to click for that, but you can also search for settings. And right from here, I could. That's a bad example, but let's say navbar, and I can toggle. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. Yeah, now it was working. It's just taking a time. I think my PC just it's busy because we have because I'm also streaming, and come on, yeah, it just takes a bit of time. Too old MacBook. But you can change settings from here, and you can also invoke actions, which is, for instance, if we are here on this car type, then I could go there to the actions dialog. And by the way, there's another shortcut which directly navigates to this action tab. But otherwise, you can also use tab to go through this. But then I could search for derived types. No, base. It's called base type. Where is it? Just saw it for a moment. It's not. Let me see. Well, let's start with this here, because right now maybe I'm not seeing it. Let me try again. Derived type. Yeah, here, derived symbols. It is not exactly, well, I can say it's not exactly greatly ordered in this case. But derived maybe is also because there are a lot of other options. But one thing I want to tell you here, and I will give you a better example, maybe, let's say, for extension methods. Yeah. Let's try this again. For exposing APIs is a good example. This is a navigation method. Oh no, one more time. Let's go back to derived, because there's something I want to show you. So derived symbols right here. This already has a shortcut assigned, which is this. Well, it's a MacBook shortcut, so I don't know either what it should mean. It's probably the option key and then end. What end would be on the Windows PC. But this is cool. This is great, because for actions that you're looking for, even if you don't use them so often, then you can immediately see what the shortcut for this particular action is. And let's go, implementations is another example. So that would basically find it's basically go-to implementation. But let's use extension methods, which is also a navigation method. This currently doesn't have a shortcut assigned, but this is a great thing because you can quickly search for actions. But once you understand you need that action often, you can also quickly assign a shortcut for that. So right here, you can see it's Option Enter. Actually, it's the same as Alt Enter, but then you could provide the shortcut, and then it's assigned. But still, one thing here, and that is very important. Rider and all our other IDEs, they are about discoverability. So if you can think about something, then you just have to search for it, and possibly, most certainly, if it's code related, of course, it's probably there. So for instance, we could also search for split, for instance. That is something that I use quite often, to just split up my editor without using the mouse, which is cool. And yeah, then I just choose one of the options, or I can just unsplit. It should be there. Yeah, we currently don't have anything splitted, so it probably won't show. Okay, but more about navigation. I won't show the shortcuts exactly for this reason. So I don't want you to know several shortcuts that might even be different for you in your key map. But it's important to understand what the different actions are and how powerful or how this is about being discoverable as an IDE. So I can jump here, jump back. By the way, this is an interesting thing. So if I go there, I go to iVehicle, for instance, and I show the derived types. This is something I always want to note, because something that you see in bold is always what is immediately inherited. The A stands for abstract, and otherwise, and this is pretty cool, if you have a long list of things inside here, and let me move to a better example. So in one of my projects, that was the wrong one. In one of my projects, I'm working with syntax trees in Roslyn. And when you work with syntax trees, then often what you have to do is guessing or assuming what kind of node you're receiving. And this is a great way because, well, let's move to syntax node. This is a great way in ReSharper because in Rider, sorry, I will make this mistake more often probably. But this is great because from a certain type, what we can do is show all the derived types. And then, well, this is an enormous list, right? But sometimes, or most often, I already know what I'm looking for, and then I can do stuff like searching inside here. It will reduce the result set. Some of these I have multiple times because they are available in different versions, also for Visual Basic, you see. And then I can navigate there, and well, also thanks to the decompiler. I think in this case it's not exactly decompiling, but using the sources from is it SourceLink, I think, yeah. And then I can just go there and browse the type basically. This is enormously helpful in this particular case. Also, you can do stuff like type hierarchy, for instance, to navigate around. Okay, one cool other thing is everyone knows how to do Control Tab, right? So you go through that list and you hit a couple of times Tab to find what you're looking for, and you release. Okay. Now, there's a much cooler thing in Rider and also in ReSharper. And what you can do is hitting, I will show it first inside this dialog here, is Control comma to open the recent files dialog. So this is the recent files dialog, and I will do it again with the shortcut. And now I release my hands already. So this will stay open, which is very, very important or helpful, because once this is open, I can start typing again to find what I'm looking for. Like, for instance, live templates. Okay, I had this open, so I know I just want to go there. You can actually, and I just did that by mistake, you can also remove stuff just by using the delete key. But otherwise, you can find something from your files, but you can also find something on the left-hand side, like, for instance, event log, if you're looking for that, or Azure Explorer and stuff like that. So this is very helpful, and it even has a further little tweak. If you hit that shortcut a second time, then you see this little checkbox was filled here or checked, and then it will only show those files that have previously been edited. And in my case, I edited a lot of files because this is my playground demo. But this is cool if you're navigating around and you're looking for something, but I just want to go back to the last or one of the last places I've edited. And in fact, there's also a dedicated shortcut for that, which is called last edit location, where you can just with a single keystroke, you can just go back. So this was the last place that we've been editing, so to say, and before that we were here. So I think this is really, really cool and helpful, and you don't waste time navigating around. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I think I've covered everything that I wanted. Favorites is cool. You can set bookmarks. It will also show all the how they called breakpoints and a lot of more stuff. But yeah, I think we can skip that for now, because there's just so much stuff to show actually. Just the other day, I had this presentation. I was talking for 1.5 hours, and I wasn't finished until then. So it's just a lot. Okay, but what can we pick next? I would say let's go with analysis. And for this, I will take an example from C#8, and I know C#10 is around the corner, but there's something I want to make clear here. With the introduction of new language features, and I just read that the other day, some people just have a hard time catching up, you know, and introducing them to their code base, whether you want it or not. Okay, but you can set your settings, and you can also say, okay, in this case, I want to keep that behavior. But you can also let Rider help you moving to the new language features if you deem them worthy, right? And we have a bunch of stuff for C# coming already, but I will use some parts from C#8 in this case. And this is, for instance, with this particular array access here, is you can make use of index from end expression, right? So let's do this. But of course, if you have a bunch of these in your code base, then you don't want to go there and always hit Alt Enter and pick that. So one thing you can do is go to the right and some quick fixes, particularly those quick fixes that are about language usage opportunities, have this possibility to be used in bulk. So you can apply this quick fix for the full method, file, folder, project, or solution. And of course, solution would be the most obvious one, because then you just sit back, relax. Rider will do its work. It will probably take a bit, but otherwise you can easily move to new language features. So I could pick that. Now this was not very interesting. Let's say I moved too far. This was not very interesting, but I will show it in this case where we are using a using statement, but this can be turned into a using declaration. And now I can just do this for the whole method, and you see that even the second one was adapted and is now using the using declaration. We can also make this async, for instance. Now you see that this was also an introduction of C#9, I think, and now it will suggest us to use await using, and I can do this as well, and then I can my movement does work. And then I can also go here and, oh yeah, there's an async overload for write line. For write line, let's use that. It will also help in a couple of other places where you're dealing with async, like passing a cancellation token, Rider knows. Also, when you use this this attribute, which actually comes from, where does it come from? Which comes from system runtime compiler services. So this is just to mark that is that a particular parameter is used for the enumerator cancellation, because we're returning an enumerator. And here with the usage, we can again say pass cancellation token, stuff like that. Okay, I will use nullability as another example for when you move somewhere and you just want to fix issues one by one. So to be more clear, let's say you wrote something and you know it has a bunch of issues, or you're coming to a file that you haven't been worked on for a long time. You know there are quite a lot of issues. You just want to go through and fix them all one by one. This is something you can do with the next error action. So there's also a previous error action, I think, yes, so that you can back and forth, that you can go back and forward. So you see, I can go further, I can also go back and all that stuff. Now, let's say here, and you see, after I navigate, it also shows the problem that is present at this particular case. So here, we have a nullable parameter which is assigned to a non-nullable version of it. But right from here, we can just change the type of the property, for instance. Boom. And you see this question mark was added. I can go further. Okay, never used. This is just because this is an example. But here, person dereference of possibly null reference. Okay. I know there's also a second way where you could attribute the isValid method, but in this case, I might choose to suppress the nullable warning with the, how's it called, dammit operator. I'm not entirely sure. But you can also, again, search here, right? So, boom. This one which is left is about localization. So let's ignore that. But this is the way how you do it. You can go through and just fix all the issues one by one. There's actually also a second shortcut, which is it this? Yeah, it's this. Which moves to the next issue in the whole solution. So currently, apparently, I don't have any, but let's say I have something which is not right here, and it doesn't work, or maybe I'm just doing something wrong. But yeah, I'm using that quite often actually. So there's also a shortcut which lets you jump to the next error in the whole solution. Okay, maybe I did something wrong. Always happens during presentations. Okay, what else can I show you? One thing that I particularly like is there's an extension, two extensions actually, which are the, let's see, the Heap Allocation viewer and the Cognitive Complexity plugin. So with Heap Allocation, the cool thing is, and I strictly say this is not particularly something to make you aware of performance issues. It's more to, if you know there is one, then you can easier identify that it might be there. Because what it does is just to make you aware where allocations happen. Like in this case, there's a possible object allocation, numerator allocation. Here we have a delegate allocation as a method group. In this case, with a lambda, we know that this will capture the this reference. In the next example, in addition to this, it will also capture the string parameter. Here we have some boxing because number is boxed to I comparable, or no, to object, sorry. And also here string concatenation, which is probably obvious. The Cognitive Complexity plugin also adds some different kind to the editor, which is this little code vision item, we call it. So similar like in Visual Studio Codelens, basically. And as you see, if you probably remember the, how's it called? Cyclomatic complexity metric, which basically tells you, or should tell you, how complex a certain piece of code is. Now, the issue with cyclomatic complexity is that these two methods here, foo and bar, they would have the same metric actually, because they have the same amount of for each statements. But it's probably clear that something that is nested is more difficult to understand than something that is just that works sequentially with the for each statements, right? So cognitive complexity is something that is a metric that takes this into account, and it was developed at SonarSource, and I actually just implemented that. But this is really cool in some places, just to see. If you click it, you can actually see where the biggest penalty comes from. And in this case, you can see, okay, it's this. And now we might choose to actually extract that method. I could do, for instance.
That's very interesting. That's the first time I've ever heard of cognitive
Yeah.
complexity. Yeah. I have heard, of course, cyclomatic complexity as the measure of how many coding branches that there are
Mm-hmm.
in terms of
Mm-hmm.
code paths, right?
Mm-hmm.
But cognitive complexity, what does it measure? Is it AI? Is it something else? I mean,
No,
I'm curious.
what it does in this case, and you can actually also hover above these these little adornments. For certain code constructs, it will increase the nesting. So this first for each statement will increase the nesting so that the next one or any other construct that is inside this for each will receive an additional penalty, something like that. And because of that, the most nested one has 3 as penalty, versus when it was outside, it would just have 1. Yeah. But
Okay.
I think this I think, I mean, in this case, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Um, but it works I will give another example here, and in this case, it's just adding 1, so it's basically fine. But let's say we're checking for null with the dictionary. We can also as well use the language shortcut, right? Like this
Yep.
compound assignment, and then you can see the +1 disappeared. We actually, if you look at it, if you look at this here, we're also
Oh,
actually down 1 value. And the same applies for this here, where I'm checking the dictionary. So let's bring it up again here, +1. Now I can make use of the ternary
mhm.
conditional operator, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the interesting part, because I have also seen ternaries that just turned my brain upside down.
Yeah, you
Because
have to use it
you
with
you,
care.
you 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 nest, so sometimes they could become nested. So yeah, yeah, really cool measure. I think, and I guess it's one of those readability, understandability things. Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's just I was just curious about it.
I actually use this a lot. So I recently I was playing with, how's it called, Target Factory.
Hmm.
In Target Factory. So this is inside my. I should turn. Yeah, that would be a bit better with my MacBook. Um, a bit ago, I was refactoring this particular one here, and I can, let's say, okay, here right now I have the file history for this particular file. From here, I can also go to the Git log, so just to find the exact commit. And now I can here see the result set and just revert selected changes. Yeah, let's do this for a moment, because then you can see very complex, this method. Yeah, because it has a large for
Oh.
each, then some other for eaches. And now what I
Yeah.
did, case in point, is I just clicked on it, and then I saw, okay, gray is just to not catch my attention, right? And I
Hmm.
scroll further, and I can see, okay, here are the real pain points. Yeah,
Hmm.
with yellow, red, etc.
Nice. Hmm.
And that is basically what I then refactored to something more readable. And
Yeah.
if let's just, can actually, I should be able to also revert from here. Yeah, so I can revert that. And here in this case, I just ended up with a second method.
Yep. Yep.
And
And,
in
and
my
and that
original
gives you
method, I
the yeah, that gives you
and
the prompts for things like extract to method, and
yeah, kind of. It's
those
like
little things that make your code a lot more readable, I suppose.
exactly. It's like it's a hint, basically, like the heap allocation viewer. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's something that you don't necessarily have to rely on to
Mm-hmm.
100% to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good indicator. And I
Yeah.
have no idea why I didn't indent this here correctly. It's funny, but you see that that's another thing I use quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
when something isn't isn't exactly formatted right, and I can mess things up here like a bit. Let's say like this, and when it's it's a over it's how's it called, exaggerated.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But what I do in this case is just there's another cool shortcut, which is I forgot how it's called, but I will show you. This is another great thing, particular for me as a presenter. If I don't know what a particular shortcut means in terms of what action it executes, I can just go here, press it,
Oh,
and
nice. Yeah.
then I can see what it actually does. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go back here. Oh no, and that was actually I showed the wrong one. See, what I meant was this reformat code
Reformat Code.
has a shortcut, and now I just hit that, and everything is formatted
Okay.
according to what I want.
All right. Cool. I want to go to some questions a couple of questions that I have from in the chat. So, first question from Raymond Neil Cerezo. This is cool. Do I have an option to modify the max cognitive complexity, or maybe configure how much? I guess configure the red, yellow, or values for the cognitive complexity.
Yeah, this is it. What I have open. So you can go to the
Oh,
options
alright.
page, then just search for cognac. Could also be cognac. I don't know. But
Yeah.
there are three different. Well, actually, there are four different stages. But you can set the base threshold here, and then you
Okay.
can also define when which code vision item should show. And there's
Okay.
one which is below simple enough, which is just this little. Let's go back. This little, how do you call it, rhombus? I would
Yeah,
call
that's
it
it's a
rhombus
diamond. Yeah.
or diamond.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But then there are also some for simple enough, which is green and takes a bit more space, and will actually also show you the percentage. Mildly complex will be yellow, very complex will be red, and there's actually, I can show you that's like
Yeah.
a little Easter egg that I put in there. If you have too much,
Uh-huh.
then from 300%, it will also say refactor me.
That's great. That's great. Really awesome stuff. I think Raymond has another question over here. Um, yeah, he was asking about how about support with containers, and when I asked him what's the scenario for containers he was talking about, he said that probably again about debugging, and Raymond is actively uh, putting in comments right now, so if you could clarify that. But yeah, I guess that just brings the question, what environments are supported. It's obvious that we could use it in Mac, we could use it in Windows. um
Mhm.
yeah, what other environment scenarios, containers? There's a good article, so yeah.
There's actually I just did a quick search. I can't touch everything, and I will also be honest. I don't do a lot with ASP.NET Core and all that stuff.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
.NET became such a wide
Yeah,
thing.
that's
Yeah,
true.
you can do IoT, you can do web, you can do Unity, you can do Unreal, so many things. I do
Okay.
use a bit of Docker, but I
Mm-hmm,
also know the last EAP, the current EAP, has
mm-hmm.
something. We can actually let's see. No, that was the wrong link. How to's. There is we constantly also blog about things, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Blazor debugging was very recent, and there was also somewhere was our Let me see. Roadmap. Yeah. Rider roadmap.
Yeah.
This is the wrong one. Let me see.
Yeah. Well, just to plug a little bit about JetBrains, I know that JetBrains also gives out a lot of videos on the .NET Foundation channel. So might be,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, might be a good idea to check on those videos as well, and,
yeah.
and see
Definitely.
those.
And there's an EAP post somewhere.
Mhm.
Let me see if I find it
Okay,
here.
I guess we can
Roadmap.
go back to Raymond and that when we find it.
Yeah, it's this one was the last one that I wrote, and there's
Okay.
debugging. Debugger UI, okay. Debug Windows Docker containers
Docker
for
containers.
instances.
All right. All
Yeah,
right.
because that was previously not available. But yeah,
Oh,
okay.
all
I
right.
will. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, one like
Yeah.
I said, 1.5 hours is not enough. But okay, let's talk about some other things. And I will try to keep in to port my settings from VS Code to Rider. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I will just refer. You can also ping me on Twitter afterwards if you like. So I will
Yep.
put my. I actually, it's also shown
Yeah.
in the
It,
stream.
it
I
it
think.
it was on the title card for the stream. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So you can.
there's some help for migrating. Yes, and I will read your settings and also suggest new plugins that you used in VS Code, but which exist for IntelliJ as a platform. So yeah, I haven't used it, but I heard it's cool. Okay.
All right. All right.
Um,
Yeah. So I am going to display your Twitter ID. Yeah. So follow. That's correct, right? At mattcop 87.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's
All
right.
right. Cool.
Okay, I will show a couple more features which are really writer specific.
Okay. That's
So
interesting. Yep.
so far we had some more which probably also work in ReSharper. But I will show you this. This thing is called language injection, which means that in a string you can mark it as as an injected language, and from here you can we will okay, I call it SQL, but let's say this is a regular expression. Now, if I marked it as regular expression, I have completion for all the different character classes. Yeah. And then I can just complete. And I also have some basic code highlighting here. Oh, where is it? Uh, Actually, I should have more highlighting. Let's do this again now. So you have some basic code highlighting here. But let's say that this is even cooler. We mark this as SQL. Okay. Now, if I do, you see, I already have a bit of completion. Select from, and now, okay, this is I don't know. I messed up my database or something, so I have to fully qualify. But I could go there and say, okay, here DBO, and then there's the subscriptions table, and then I could expand from here, expand the column list, and then it will write out all the columns that are available in this particular path. I think it can also, let's see. No, that doesn't work. I think it works from the next version or something. I read something, but you can have, yeah, you can have it multi-line, of course. Just to have a better read edit. Um, uh, Stuff like this. And database is actually fully integrated with, it's called data grip. And then you can just explore your databases here, for instance, subscription, and you can go there. You can actually also modify it, and after you've added something like a full row, you can say you can add multiple, and then in the last step you say, okay, I want to submit everything that I have. I just very recently I watched the introduction video for Data Grip. It's a full hour, so I can't talk
Yeah,
about everything.
right.
Um,
I noticed a detail. That database is that on Azure SQL.
yes, yes.
Yeah. So what other data sources can you support? I mean, do you support Postgre or oh, okay,
These It's
that's a
to
lot.
to my to my knowledge, it's a lot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that is
Mhm.
just because it's again to the point. It's a completely separate team which works on Data Grip,
Mhm.
which has
Mhm.
nothing to do with .NET or anything. They
Yeah.
just pick. They basically pick the. I'm sure there's probably also one that it isn't listed here.
Mhm.
At least I would assume so. But they're working on the most popular ones, and then we just have it. And of course, Azure shouldn't be missed here. And yeah, but also a bunch of others.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I have another question from Raymond. Is very interested. Actually, is there an easy way to port my settings from VS Code to Writer?
Didn't we have that already? That's what
I
when I said.
think I think you did show something earlier.
Uh, I think I was reading it when I saw it, but there is. Let's see. There is also in our blog. There's uh, migrating. Let's see.
Um,
There was one.
it's probably somewhere in the in there. All right, I have to ask this question.
Yeah,
That I am going to ask.
yeah.
What's the? I guess if you could summarize it to one statement, and then I know this is hard. What is the biggest reason why somebody should use
I knew it.
Writer over say let's not talk about VS Code, maybe over full version, or maybe either full version Visual Studio or VS Code. What's the biggest selling point, I guess, that you could say that there is for.
Okay. So I will give you the usual answer. What
Mm-hmm.
and this is if you would follow our Twitter handle, then you see this quite often that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is just another feature that saves you a bunch of time in the moment you need it most. But I could go with something like my most my three features that I think are a huge selling point. Um, but only one is a specific feature. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing about it is it's cross-platform. So if you work on different operating systems, and this is particular in relation to Visual Studio, probably you have the same experience on all these operating systems.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's no this is not Rider for Windows and Rider for Mac, but it's just Rider,
it's
right?
just Writer, right?
And it works the same way on all platforms. Well, I do have to say, Rider on Windows has some additional features, like for instance, you can preview WPF layouts and all that. But that's really just a minor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the second thing to that, which I think is a huge improvement, is I talked about the architecture, right?
Yep.
Like here,
Oh,
and this architecture that
mhm.
that that there's a front end and a back end, and the back end does most of the work. This architecture allows that the IDE, the front end, is very responsive. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
these things are decoupled, and when garbage collection is triggered in .NET, then every thread has to stop, even the UI thread, and that is something that is purely not needed when you have it decoupled like that. Then there garbage collection can be done in the ReSharper host as often as it needs to be, but IntelliJ platform in the front end will still be responsive. Yeah.
Okay.
So these things are decoupled. Now, there's really one feature, and still it's hard. Yeah, I just say it, but because there's so much, I will hopefully have time to show at least 2 more things. But one thing that is absolutely how to say, a lifesaver is local history. Because I want to set the stage here a little. It happened to me. It happened several times already. I tried to deal with a bug or something actually new, and I wanted to implement that. And at some point, I thought, okay, this is not going to work, and I deleted everything. Yeah, all my status, because I thought it's useless anyways. Let's remove it. Now you go, basically you could say either from here, from the VCS operations, which is very cool because it has all the related operations to Git and stuff like that. And again, from here you can type if you don't want to look for it very long. You can type. Okay, then you roll back, or you just hit the undo button several times, and then it's gone. And then you write something new, and then you've lost it, basically, because the undo stack is overwritten, right? With how's it called? Local history, you can go to a particular file and say show local history, but you can also go to a folder or project and say show local history. And what this does is it's like an automatic
source
like an
control.
automatic
It's
source
like
control.
Git. It's It's
Yeah.
like Git without
It
needing
has
to commit.
exactly. It has some save points, let's say, or restore points. Reminds me a bit of Windows Millennium Edition. But you can go through and you can actually also search in these files, or you can open them, and like here we can see this is the change that I made before.
Okay.
But you can also search inside here, and for each, for instance, and I think I think it only works with a single file, might be. But
it might work at the file level. It looks like.
Then I think you should also be able to search in the content. But you also see at this particular point, I was rolling back. So for a couple of operations, it will do this also automatically so that you can find it easier. But you can also, if at some point you say, okay, now I don't want to commit, I just, because even if you would commit, once you say you're done, you have to remove the commit maybe, or you have to squash it. But all I do here is just put a label, and this would work just like with the rollback label that we just had. Then you can give it a name and say first attempt or something. Whatever.
Basically like a tag.
Exactly. And then you will also see this in the history here, and then you can easier identify which is the state you want to go back to.
Awesome.
And this is like I said, this is a huge time saver, because if you're working on something for a full day, and just because you think, okay, I'm really sure this is not it, and you delete it, and then it's gone, and but you want it back, and this is incredible, this feature.
Awesome. That sounds like that's a really compelling thing. All right, I have a question here that's a little bit on the controversial side from Mr. Nestor Lim. Since this IDE is running on JVM, does it consume significantly more memory compared to other environments?
I wouldn't say so. So of course you have a bit of overhead because you have the JVM and .NET, but I don't know. I don't feel it, to be honest. I have a fairly outdated MacBook already. It's now almost 4 years old, I think. And even in a big solution, this other solution here that I'm working on, so my own open source project is a big solution, because most part of it is generated. Yeah, so there's almost 500,000, I think, lines of code which are generated, and I don't see any issues. So what I don't have, I'll be honest, is I don't have solution-wide analysis enabled for most of the time, at least, simply because I don't need it. And solution-wide analysis puts a bit of pressure on it. But also, I'm solely on a Mac. I don't have a desktop PC. I will hopefully soon, once the next M1 chip comes out. I wanna get a new MacBook. I heard very good things about it in terms of performance. So I would say, well, what I always can say is give it a try. Yeah, you can give it a try. We currently also have EAP. We currently have EAP releases, which means until the next version comes out, you can totally use it. You can completely use it for free, and it also doesn't have, like this trial period or something. That is something that is disabled for EAPs. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a lot.
Yeah, all right.
This IDE is very responsive.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned the large solutions, because Raymond has another question about the larger solutions. Uh, how fast does Rider handle build projects? Isn't the left main a bit messy, so we can modify the font size and things like that? I think you answered that partially already, that even with the large solution right now, it's responsive. But yeah, how does it handle those? I mean, there are some companies, or there are some people with still working with legacy code bases that has like 200 projects inside one SLN file. um, um, yeah.
Let me see. I just have to read that question again. However, how fast does Rider handle big projects? I would say fairly well. This is like I said, this is a huge benefit also of the architecture, because the ReSharper host is completely decoupled, and this also means that it's much easier on garbage collection and stuff like that. So it scans all the files, of course, searching. Well, if you don't have solution-wide analysis turned on, then anyway, will only inspect the current file or the files that you have open. But if you have that, then of course it will take a while until it has finished one run. But once it has finished one run, consecutively or following to that, it's much faster with the changes that you're doing. So I would say it's fairly fast. And if I read that correctly, the question is, if so, can we modify the font size of just that? So if just that means this particular item, I do think so. So in the options, I would search for something like editor, and then maybe color scheme, and then there's font size and all that.
I think what he was asking about was the left pane, the solution, tree.
Yeah, sure. So I usually deal with just the defaults, but I'm sure one of these here is, I think
So
it should be then
it should be modifiable.
console. Ah, yeah, here, editor font, and I'm fairly sure it's just this. So let's increase to 19, let's say, for a moment.
Yeah.
No, that was just the editor.
Yeah.
It's somewhere.
It might be somewhere out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough. All right. I'd love to, I would love to continue this conversation, but we are out of time. So I like to I just like to hear any parting words or any advice. I mean, about how people could begin trying out Rider.
Sure. So, of course, we have a website
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
download link, etc. Like I said, EAP would be a good chance for you to also see a couple of new features. Um, it's well, as a beginner, I would probably say use the latest release.
Hmm.
Because there it's more likely that you don't hit any issues, but of course it might happen with the EAP. But yeah, I would say give it a try. And this is not something I can handle for you.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
because it's always about how things feel. I know very recently we had someone as a guest also on our webinar, which we also streamed to .NET Foundation, and later he said he just because of the webinar he was tempted so much to try Rider again, and then some weeks later he said, "Okay, now it's my main IDE." And of course, it will take time,
Yep.
but particular for this time, for this transitioning, do feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to help. And if you say this particular workflow that I have doesn't work the same way as in Visual Studio or VS Code, but you like all the other things, then why shouldn't we take the time to
Yeah.
help you getting this workflow on par, let's say, with how you used to do it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I can just say we're open to that. And otherwise, just try it in a solution that you're working with. There's nothing that question I sometimes also get. Um, there's nothing that Rider will change to the solution, so it will read just
Yeah.
normal solution files.
Yeah.
It doesn't have its own format or something.
Okay.
So I would say it's a zero risk thing that you can do. Well, the only risk is you might end up with another IDE that you're using.
Yeah. That's
Maybe.
that's really good. All right. I flashed both uh the URL where you could start exploring and downloading Rider,
Hmm.
and the EAP is the early access. I guess it's the early access link here.
Early access program, yeah.
Yes, yes. All right. And of course, they could follow again. If you have more questions for Matthias, you could follow him at his Twitter account. So yep, I guess that is it for this evening. Thank you very much, Matthias.
Thank you also, and it was cool because in many meetups there are no questions in the middle. It was cool to have you around actually during the talk. That
All
was
right.
nice, and to all the others, I hope you enjoyed it.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was a
All
pleasure.
right. Yeah, yeah. Well, our pleasures all are. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Matthias, and we'll see you around. Maybe next time we could talk about your about Nuke
That would
and
be cool, yeah.
yep. All right, cool. That's it. So I'll say goodbye for now. So okay. Yeah, we're a bit over time again. So yep, that's it for tonight's episode. Thank you very much. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you would give Rider a try. Maybe yeah, 2 weeks from now it would become your main IDE. And yeah, I guess the main concern for some people had been, if there is a free version, there is a free version. The early access program would be the one. That being said, thank you very much everyone for joining us tonight. Magandang gabi. We will be back next month. So just join us in our meetup.com group, and you will hear from us for the next event. So that's it. Thank you. Good night. Maraming salamat sa inyo lahat. See you all.